Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Today is our fourth day of Gaseous exchange, and today we are going to cover three very short and simple topics: composition of inspired and expired air, rate of respiration, and anaerobic respiration. So our first topic is composition of inspired and expired air, and this table is also present in your book. Here in the first column, we have the components, that is the oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, water vapor, and the temperature of the air that we inspire and expire. And then in the second column, we have the composition of the inspired air. So there is 21% oxygen in this inspired air and 0.03% carbon dioxide and 79% nitrogen. Water vapor is variable, it can be more or less different, and the temperature of the inspired air is equal to the atmospheric temperature. In the expired air, we have 16% oxygen, 4% carbon dioxide, and 79% nitrogen. Water vapor is saturated, so there is a lot of water vapor in it, and the temperature is 37 degrees Celsius. Rate of breathing at rest and during exercise. When you exercise, you must have noticed that you breathe heavily and you take deep breaths. Now, what is the reason? Why does this happen? Breathing is largely an involuntary process, so it means that you are not voluntarily doing it. You're not thinking about it. Without thinking, this process goes on. So it happens involuntary, and it is controlled by hypothalamus of our brain. So this part of the brain, hypothalamus, controls breathing. The rate of breathing changes automatically according to the changes in internal or external conditions. So whatever change has taken place in the environment or in our body has an effect on our breathing. Let's take an example. If a person is exercising, its rate of breathing would increase because of increased consumption of oxygen by his muscles. So now when he's exercising, oxygen in his muscles is being utilized. Thus, gradually, increase in concentration of carbon dioxide in his blood will cause an increase in this breathing rate. So, because oxygen is being consumed in the muscles, the concentration of carbon dioxide will increase in the blood. And as a result, the breathing rate will also increase. If the person continues to exercise, what happens is that the muscle cells will start breaking down glucose without oxygen to create energy. And when this happens, this is called anaerobic respiration, and this kind of respiration does not involve oxygen. As a result of this, the byproduct lactic acid is produced in the muscles and rather than carbon dioxide. So the byproduct of oxidation reaction of breaking down food molecules to create energy, the byproduct is carbon dioxide. But over here, the byproduct is lactic acid and not carbon dioxide. And when lactic acid is produced in the muscles, it causes pain and cramp in normal muscles. The breaking down of lactic acid requires additional amount of oxygen. So more oxygen is required, and this is called oxygen debt. The extra amount of oxygen is obtained through deep breaths, and that is why during exercise you breathe heavily and you take deep breaths to compensate for the lack of oxygen that is created in your body as a result of exercise. So what is anaerobic respiration? Anaerobic respiration is a type of respiration through which cells can break down sugars to generate energy in the absence of oxygen. So anaerobic respiration is a kind of respiration which takes place without oxygen, and aerobic respiration, which is highly efficient process, it relies on oxygen to produce energy. So in anaerobic respiration, the cells break down the sugars to generate energy without oxygen. And in aerobic respiration, we all know, we have already studied that it requires oxygen for the breaking down of sugar molecules. The last topic over here is artificial ventilator, a machine that works like lungs. So when your own lungs are not functioning efficiently, you use this external machine to act like lungs for the patient. So a machine that works like lungs when patient's natural breathing becomes difficult. Through this machine, the oxygen-rich air is directly supplied to the trachea, where a tube inserted through the mouth up to the windpipe. And now how does this happen? Through a tube inserted through the mouth. And you can look at the diagram closely, and you can see that the tubes have been inserted inside the mouth of this person. And nasogastric tube goes through patient's nose and into the stomach. And you can see the tube going over here. And then endotracheal tube goes through patient's mouth and into the windpipe. Mechanical ventilator blows air or air with increased oxygen through tubes into the patient's airways. So this machine blows air inside the trachea of the body. The nurse, of course, checks, and over here you can see that air flowing to the patient passes through a humidifier so that it is moist, which warms and moistens the air. So this is how all this takes place. The air that goes in is moistened, and then it enters the body, and the breathing system continues without the patient's normal process involved. That's all for today. Jazakallah. See you next time with a new video. Allah Hafiz.